Hello, I'm Craig Johnson, and this is my house in South Minneapolis. Since my regular job as a freelance theater director and actor is non-existent during the coronavirus quarantine time, I've been spending a lot of time here. So to keep myself creative, and also to learn some of these programs on my computer like iMovie, Photo Booth, QuickTime, and the like, I've been going around to different rooms in the house and making short videos. I call them literary lockdowns, and they mix personal takes on literature, history, and performance, things I like. For many years, though, I also worked in the museum field as the manager of the James J. Hill House, an 1891 historic house museum. Yeah, it looks a little bit like a haunted house. Among the many programs that I developed there were a series of readers' theater or storytelling performances with some friends exploring the literature of the late 19th and early 20th century, and they were great fun to do. I was amazed as I was researching those programs about the sheer volume of ghost stories that were written during that late 19th, early 20th century time period. Maybe that was because people were haunted by all of the social ills that industrialization brought to their new, ever-expanding cities, or maybe they were spooked by the seemingly otherworldly technology, telegraphs, telephones, electric buzzers that were around them. Or maybe they were just becoming aware that these servants who silently worked and lived alongside them were like some sort of phantom spirits slipping through paneled walls and secret doors. But whatever the reasons, all the heavy-hitter authors of that time period wrote ghost stories. But, like ghosts, behind them was a huge pack of now largely forgotten authors, people like the charmingly named Jerome K. Jerome, who wrote in many genres, but I think he was especially good at humorous essays and ghost stories. So, here's a little bit more about Jerome K. Jerome, and then his amusing take on the British guidelines governing good ghost stories. I hope you enjoy it, and thanks for watching. Looks like I'm going to tell you a ghost story. I'm not. I want to talk to you about ghost stories, and particularly one writer, Jerome K. Jerome. You heard me, Jerome K. Jerome. He began his career as a failed actor, but then turned to writing and cranked out a whole bunch of novels, short stories, humorous essays, best known for the novel 3 Men in a Boat, to say nothing of the dog. I mean, come on, that's pretty funny. Well, in the late 1880s, he published a collection of ghost stories, and in the introduction to that, he gave a really good description of what distinguishes British ghost stories from American ghost stories. We associate them with Halloween. Not so in England. Here's what Jerome had to say. It was Christmas Eve. I begin this way because it is the proper, orthodox, respectable way to begin, and I have been brought up in a proper, orthodox, respectable way, and taught to always do the proper, orthodox, respectable thing. The habit clings to me. Of course, as a mere matter of information, it is quite unnecessary to mention the date at all. The experienced reader knows it was Christmas Eve. It is always Christmas Eve in a ghost story. Christmas Eve is the ghosts' great gala night. On Christmas Eve they hold their annual fete. On Christmas Eve, everybody in Ghostland who is anybody comes out to show himself or herself, to see and to be seen, to promenade about and display their grave clothes, to criticize one another's style and to sneer at one another's complexion. Hollow moans and fiendish grins are energetically practiced up. Blood-curdling shrieks and marrow-freezing gestures are probably rehearsed weeks beforehand. Rusty chains and gory daggers are overhauled and put into good working order, and shrouds carefully laid by from the previous year's show are taken down and shaken out, mended and aired. Oh, it is a stirring night in Ghostland, the night of December the 24th. The ghosts never come out on Christmas itself, you may have noticed. Christmas Eve, we suspect, has been too much for them. They are not used to such excitement. For about a week after Christmas Eve, the gentlemen ghosts, no doubt, feel as though they were all head, and go about making solemn resolutions that they will stop next Christmas Eve, while lady spectres are contradictory and snappish and liable to burst into tears and leave the room hurriedly on being spoken to for no perceptible cause whatsoever. Ghosts with no position to maintain, mere middle-class ghosts, occasionally, I believe, do a little haunting on off nights, on All Hallows Eve or at Midsummer, and some will even run up for a mere local event to celebrate the anniversary of the hanging of somebody's grandfather, or to prophesy a misfortune. But these are the exceptions. As I have said, the average orthodox ghost does his one turn a year on Christmas Eve and is satisfied. Why, on Christmas Eve of all nights in the year, I never could myself understand. It is invariably one of the most dismal nights to be out in, cold, muddy, wet. And besides, at Christmas time, everybody has quite enough to put up with in the way of a household of living relations, without wanting the ghosts of any dead ones mooning about the place. And not only do the ghosts themselves always walk on Christmas Eve, but live people always sit and talk about them on Christmas Eve. Whenever 5 or 6 English people meet round a fire on Christmas Eve, they start telling each other ghost stories. Nothing satisfies us on Christmas Eve but to hear authentic anecdotes about spectres. But it is a genial, festive season, so we love to muse upon graves and dead bodies and murder and blood. There is a good deal of similarity about our ghostly experiences. But this, of course, is not our fault, but the fault of the ghosts, who never will try any new performances, but always will keep steadily to the old safe business. It always starts with the plucky guest or the sceptical guest who goes to sleep with a light heart in the dreaded yellow chamber, or whatever colour the haunted room may be, and the next morning he has got snow-white hair. He does not tell anybody about what he has seen. It is too awful. All these things happen on Christmas Eve, and they're all told on Christmas Eve. For ghost stories to be told on any other evening than the 24th of December would be impossible in English society as presently regulated. Therefore, in introducing the authentic ghost stories that follow, I feel that it is unnecessary to inform the student of Anglo-Saxon literature that the date on which they were told and on which the incidents took place was Christmas Eve. Nevertheless, I do so. It was Christmas Eve.